Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Fancy meeting you here.
Have we met?
So, I have a question for you.
I may have an answer.
I'm springing this on you. I didn't warn you in advance. Um, how have you been sleeping lately?
Quite well.
Yeah?
I think so.
Good? What do you attribute that to?
Um, Less stress in my life, feeling more in alignment, a second pillow.
Hmm. Yeah, you just added that recently. Good. Um, Me too. Like, I've been sleeping well lately. I often sleep well. Um, but when I don't, I have a couple, like literally a couple, like two therapeutic yoga breathing practices that I rely heavily on. And I'm going to share one of those today because what I've heard more than anything from anyone in these past few months, including like my clients, my friends, my family, my people on the news, in the literature, and the science, and the studies, is that since the pandemic started, because it had such a profound effect on changing our rhythms and our routine, and there was some shifting in our mentality and a lot more fear coming up, that they were having trouble sleeping. Um, and I know how lucky I am that I don't have a lot of trouble sleeping. If anything, I usually sleep too deep and too long. But I know you've had issues in the past.
Yeah, I guess the last week or so I've been sleeping a lot better. But since the time of the pandemic, there have been some occasions where I've had trouble. I've been dreaming a lot more,
Yeah,
which is really unusual for me.
that's another one that's come up, like on radio talk shows and podcasts. A lot of people are saying that they're noticing that. I heard a psychologist talk about why that is. Again, and it goes back to just the change in routine. Um, and some people are even talking about like their dreams sort of potentially taking on a nightmarish kind of quality. So if you found that at all, you're not alone. But if you're finding yourself like having trouble getting to sleep because you're overthinking, or you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep, um, we're going to do a breath work practice here that might help you. It helps me for sure. So when I do this one, it's like within a minute, I feel my nervous system come down, and it just kind of directs our uh, attention away from what's diverting us from sleep into a place of gentle concentration, and then sort of a lulling into a more relaxed state. So I'll get to that in one sec. Um, this is potentially going to be part of what we just actually thought of this morning, of running this summer. So it's going to be a midsummer sleep experiment program, because I've heard so many people having trouble with sleep, and it affects us so profoundly in our day-to-day interactions, in our ability to kind of show up for other people in our lives, for ourselves, to be safe driving, to be efficient at work, to have clear thought. I mean, literally, sleep is the one thing that affects everything else in our life, right? I know a lot of new parents that can attest to that for sure. So I'm just going to give you a little dose here. If this works for you and that's all you need, great, use it. It's all I need. But if you need something a little more, feel free to reach out and ask about our midsummer sleep experiment program. It's going to be 6 weeks. A couple times a week, we'll practice restorative yoga right before bed. We're going to do a little group coaching, um, a little lullaby action from Sandor, live music wise. So music can really help to lull us to sleep, as you know. Um, so yes, feel free to reach out about that via email, or through the Physiologic Yoga Facebook Messenger page, or through Leslie Watt Facebook page. Sandra Bosnick can also answer questions about that. We're just building it. So again, if you have questions or think you might be interested, just reach out and we'll give you more information. But for now, I'll give you, like I said, a little dose. So we're going to work up to imaginary alternate nostril breath by actually first practicing alternate nostril breath. So alternate nostril breath is a classic yogic practice. If you're a yogi or a practitioner of yoga, You've likely come across this in some of the more in-depth yoga classes. So we're going to practice it for real, which means we're actually going to plug our nostril, breathe, plug the other nostril, breathe out, and go back and forth. And what I find when I do that is that my nervous system kind of ramps up a little bit. Like I get a little anxious because you're actually decreasing the amount of air you're able to take in and breathe out at one time. And then you're going to see why the imaginary version of that is actually more relaxing and suggested for sleep and relaxation. Oh,
That's
see, he
interesting.
really didn't know what we were doing today. You could see that with his facial expression there. Okay, so you're going to be my demo so people don't hear me talking while I plug my nose. So to start, if you want to practice with us at home, you're going to take either hand. You can take your right hand just for fun. Curl your two fingers, so your index and middle finger in. Turn your hand towards you. And then place your thumb beside one nostril and your ring finger beside the other nostril. So that's the classic way to do it. I mean, you can use pincers if you want. You can use like one and then the other index finger, but that's just sort of how I do it, how I practice and teach.
I thought it's supposed to plug both.
Don't plug both at the same time to start. So you can get settled in your seat or wherever you're at. You can do this standing as well. You can do it lying down, but sometimes the arm gets a little bit tired, so sitting is my preference. So with your thumb beside one nostril and maybe your ring finger beside the other, just take a couple breaths in and out through your nose before plugging anything and assess how that feels. Notice if you're stuffed up today, maybe one nostril feels a little more closed or open than the other. So just kind of get that even rhythm of breath. And we're just going to do a couple rounds. So next time you breathe all the way out, plug your right nostril with your thumb, and then inhale through the left, and then switch. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right, so you're going to stay with the hand. And at the top of your inhale, switch and exhale through the left. Then you're going to stay there with the hand. Inhale through the left. And then switch your fingers, exhale through the right. We'll do that one more time. Breathe all the way out. Keep your hand the same. Breathe in. At the top of the inhale, good. You're going to switch fingers and breathe all the way out. And then you can drop your hand, take a couple normal breaths. So that might not have been long enough to get the sense of like slight anxiety that I sometimes get, but how was that for you?
It was good. To concentrate on my breathing, which makes me focus.
Which makes us focus. Okay. So you can imagine if you were plugged up or if you had any kind of sinus congestion and you could only depend on one nostril to breathe at a time, that might create a little like heart flutter, like a little, am I getting enough oxygen? The pace of your breath is forced to slow down. So if your purpose, your goal is to work on your breath and slowing it down and getting that under control and focusing, that's a great one to do with your actual hand plugging the nose. But when we use this practice for rest and sleep and even pain relief, I give this one a lot to my clients who are in pain. It seems to have a better effect on the nervous system to calm it down when we do it without our hand. So this time I'm going to get you to just rest your hands beside you, on your legs, on your knees, on the counter, wherever you're sitting. And if you're practicing this with us, you can close your eyes if you like. And then just take a couple normal breaths like you did before, in and out through your nose. Don't worry too much about how you're breathing or how deep or the pace, just breathe. Take another breath in. Breathe all the way out, and then when you inhale, imagine that you're inhaling only through the right nostril and then out through the left. And then follow the air in through your left nostril and imagine you're breathing out only through the right. So in your mind, it's in right, out left, in left, out right. So in your own pace, we'll do that one more time. So 2 more breaths, and you might even say those words in your mind. In right, out left. Follow it with your mind. In left, out right. And just take a couple normal breaths, redistribute your attention between both nostrils equally. And I can see even just, well, because I can see his face with this one, his hand's not in front of it, but your face just looked very serene and peaceful.
That almost put me to sleep.
Sleep sitting up, right? Yeah, so if anyone who's practicing this with us has a comment, feel free to give us a little version or variation of what was different for you, but very different experiences usually.
Very different.
Yeah, so it's like same name, same kind of process, but the experience is quite different.
It's far more relaxing.
To do it the imaginary way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that too. And what it actually does, when either way when we do it, it creates a balancing effect between the 2 hemispheres of our brain. So we have a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere. And because we're challenging or using the hemispheres back and forth, or like sensation, left, right, it kind of creates this pendular effect in our brain. And can you think of another time that you might use like a pendulum? The classic hypnotherapy. Yeah, exactly. So like back in the old days when they used a watch on the end of a chain to hypnotize people. Yeah, they think that worked in part because it made our eyes move or our brain move from left to right, and it integrated what was happening in the 2 sides of our brain. So we're essentially doing that with our attention and just using our breath as the object of attention to help that happen in our mind.
Cool.
Yeah. So remember that one. You don't need anything for it. You can stay tucked into your bed, your arms under the covers, and just switch that little exercise on in bed if you can't get to sleep, if you're overthinking, or if you wake up in the middle of the night. Just a couple rounds of imaginary alternate nostril breath can really help our brains want to get back to sleep. And again, if that worked for you and you need more, you're really interested in learning to sleep better, especially during this time, we're going to create a program that really caters towards that. So like I said, lullaby type music, restorative yoga. It's going to be right before bedtime in Manitoba. So you can kind of just like roll right into bed and use these practices. It's going to be some positioning, some meditation, some breathing like we just did. I'll teach you all my tricks. And then some more tips. So a 6-week program. If you're interested, like I said, give us a little message. This will be the last mini class of our season. We're going to switch over to the program and then just kind of enjoy summer. So I hope you guys have been getting outside. Exercise helps as well for getting good sleep. So
much.
Enjoy the sun. Thank you so much for joining us.